Naledi Jenkins never expected falling asleep in the wrong bed would awaken the most feared man in Seoul, or that it would make her the target of every enemy who wanted him dead. In the shadows of Gangnam's underground empire, Kim Dong-hyun sat paralyzed in his wheelchair, a ghost of the ruthless king who once controlled Seoul's night. His body hadn't responded to anything in 15 years, not pleasure, not pain, not hope, until the night his new maid, exhausted from double shifts, collapsed into his bed by mistake. Her warmth beside him sparked something doctors said was impossible, a physical stirring he thought he'd lost forever. She didn't know he was paralyzed from a rival's ambush that killed his wife. She didn't know his enemies watched for any sign of weakness. She didn't know that her presence just made him vulnerable in ways that could get them both killed. But when her chocolate skin pressed against his sheets and her full curves molded into his mattress, something inside the Mafia king cracked open, and the underworld took notice. Welcome to Love and Tension. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to get dangerously personal, and the power flip at the end will leave you speechless. 3 weeks before that fateful night, the wheelchair gleamed under fluorescent lights, chrome, expensive, a prison Kim Dong-hyun couldn't escape. He sat in his penthouse office overlooking the Han River, fingers drumming the armrest, the only part of his body that still obeyed. 15 years since the bullet severed his spine. 15 years since he'd felt anything below his waist. 15 years since his wife died in that same ambush, bleeding out in his useless arms. The doctor said he'd never walk again. They were right. They also said other things would never work. They were right about that, too. Boss Taeyang, his head of security, entered without knocking. Only he had that privilege. The new maid starts today. Another one? Dong-hyun's voice carried the weight of someone who'd stopped caring about small things. The last 3 quit within a week. This one's different. American, desperate enough to ignore the rumors. What rumors? Taeyang's silence said everything. The whispers that Kim Dong-hyun was cruel, impossible, that working for him meant entering hell. Good. The fear kept people at a distance. Distance kept him safe from the weakness of attachment. Send her up. Naledi Jenkins stared at the eviction notice taped to her apartment door. 72 hours. That's all she had left. Her phone buzzed. Another collection call. She silenced it, hands shaking. 2 jobs weren't enough. Not after her ex, Devin, had drained their joint account and disappeared. Not after she'd spent everything trying to help her sick mother before she died. Not after... Stop! Don't go there! She unlocked her door and slid inside, leaning against it. The apartment was already half-packed, boxes everywhere, memories scattered across cardboard. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, the job posting still glowing on screen. Live-in housekeeper needed. Seoul, South Korea private employer. Room and board included. A salary. $4,000 per month. Immediate start. Discretion required. $4,000. In Atlanta, that barely covered rent. In Seoul, that could change everything. Let her start over, escape the wreckage Devin left behind, the bruises that had finally healed, the shame that hadn't. The posting mentioned nothing about the employer except one line. Experience with difficult personalities preferred. Naledi knew difficult. She'd survived worse. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. The application asked for basic information. Name, age, experience. Nothing invasive. The email response came within an hour. Interview via video call tomorrow, 8 p.m. your time. Be punctual. This is your only opportunity. The interview was strange. 3 Korean men in expensive suits sat in what looked like a boardroom. No smiles, no warmth. They asked questions in clipped English. You understand this position requires living on site? Yes. You understand discretion is non-negotiable? Yes. You understand our employer values privacy above all else? I can respect that. The man in the center, sharp jaw, calculating eyes, leaned forward. Why do you want this job, Miss Jenkins? The truth sat on her tongue. Because I'm broke, desperate, and running from a man who put me in the hospital twice. But she knew desperation smelled like blood and water. These men were sharks. I want a fresh start, she said carefully. Somewhere my past doesn't follow me. I'm a hard worker, I don't ask questions, and I can handle difficult. How difficult? She met his gaze. I grew up in foster care after my mama couldn't take care of me anymore. Worked 3 jobs to put myself through community college. Survived an abusive relationship that nearly killed me. I'd say I can handle most things. The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. You'll be working for someone who doesn't like people, who doesn't want conversation or friendship, just competence. Can you provide that? Yes. When can you start? Give me 3 days to settle my affairs. You have 2. Someone will send your plane ticket. The screen went black. The flight was long. Naledi arrived in Seoul exhausted, disoriented, overwhelmed by the Hangul signs she couldn't read, the rapid-fire Korean she couldn't understand. A driver met her at the airport, silent, professional, holding a sign with her name. He drove her through Seoul's glittering streets, at the city alive with neon and noise until they reached Gangnam. The buildings here were different, sleeker, more expensive. They pulled into an underground garage of a building that looked like it cost more than her entire neighborhood back home. The penthouse elevator required a key card. The driver handed her one. Your room is on the 2nd floor. Mr. Kim's quarters are on the 3rd. You don't go to the 3rd floor unless called. Understood? Understood. The elevator opened to luxury that made her breath catch. White marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that probably cost more than her car. Her room was simple but comfortable. Private bathroom, a bed that felt like clouds. She unpacked quickly, changed into the uniform left on her bed. Simple black dress, crisp white apron. A note sat on the dresser. Mr. Kim takes breakfast at 7 a.m., lunch at 1 p.m., dinner at 7 p.m. He doesn't eat in his room. Meals are served in the dining room on the 3rd floor. You will clean, cook, and stay out of his way. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not ask questions about his condition. Do not touch him without permission. Violate these rules and you're on the next flight home. Naledi read it twice. His condition. What did that mean? She met Kim Dong-hyun the next morning. She'd prepared breakfast, simple, following the menu left in the kitchen. Rice, soup, banchan. She carried the tray to the 3rd floor, knocked on the dining room door. Enter. The voice was cold, commanding. She pushed the door open and saw him. The wheelchair struck her first. Chrome and leather, expensive. It was built for someone who'd be in it forever. Then, the man himself. Sharp features, dark eyes that missed nothing, shoulders broad despite his condition. He wore a black shirt, perfectly pressed. His hair was dark, touched with gray at the temples. Handsome in a way that felt dangerous. You're the new maid, not a question. Yes, sir. Naledi Jenkins. I didn't ask your name. She set the tray down, careful to stay professional despite the sting. Will there be anything else? His eyes traveled over her, not sexual, just assessing, taking inventory. She knew what he saw, a black woman, curvy, obviously American, obviously out of place in his pristine Korean world. You're dismissed. She left without another word. The routine was brutal. Dong-hyun was exacting, impossible. He wanted things done a specific way and grew cold when they weren't perfect. He never raised his voice. That would require caring. But his silence was worse. It made her feel like she was failing at something she couldn't quite name. She learned quickly. He took his coffee black. Exactly 185 degrees. His sheets had to be changed daily, the hospital corners precise. His meals required specific portions, specific arrangements. He never thanked her, never acknowledged her beyond the occasional command. But she noticed things. The way his jaw tightened when he struggled to reach something just out of range. The medication bottles in his bathroom. Pain management, muscle relaxers, something she didn't recognize. The physical therapy equipment in a locked room she wasn't supposed to enter, but had seen through the cracked door. The scars on his lower back, visible once when she'd entered his room to change sheets and he hadn't heard her knock. He wasn't just in a wheelchair. He was in pain. Constant, grinding pain he never mentioned. On day 5, she made a mistake. She'd been exhausted, working double time to clean the massive penthouse, learning to cook Korean food from YouTube videos at night, adjusting to the time difference. She'd finished his dinner service, cleaned the kitchen, and collapsed on the sofa in the staff lounge. She didn't mean to fall asleep. She woke hours later, disoriented. It was past midnight. She stood quickly, straightening her uniform, and went to check if Dong-hyun needed anything before bed. His bedroom door was open. The lights were off. She could see the outline of his wheelchair beside the bed, the silhouette of him in it, unslumped forward. He'd fallen asleep without transferring to the bed. Naledi hesitated. The rules said don't touch him, but leaving him like that seemed cruel. His neck was bent at an angle that would leave him in agony by morning. She approached quietly. Mr. Kim? No response. She touched his shoulder gently. He jerked awake, eyes wild with something that looked like fear before his expression shuddered. What are you doing here? You fell asleep in your chair. I thought... You thought wrong. His voice was ice. Get out. I was just trying to help. I don't need your help. I don't need your pity. Get out. She left quickly, cheeks burning with humiliation. Naledi learned to avoid Dong-hyun outside of required interactions. She did her job, stayed invisible, counted down the days until her first paycheck. But on day 7, everything changed. She'd worked late again, cleaning his study while he was in his physical therapy session with the private trainer who came 3 times a week. She'd scrubbed floors, dusted shelves, reorganized his extensive library of books he never seemed to touch. Exhaustion hit her like a wave. She needed just a moment, just 5 minutes to rest her eyes. Dong-hyun's bedroom was closer than her own. The door was open. His bed was freshly made. She'd changed the sheets that morning. Just 5 minutes. She lay down on top of the covers, careful not to disturb anything. The bed was softer than hers. The pillows smelled like expensive detergent and something else. Something masculine. 5 minutes, she told herself. She fell asleep instantly. Dong-hyun finished therapy in agony. His legs screamed with phantom pains they shouldn't feel. His back burned where the scar tissue pulled tight. The therapist had pushed hard today, working muscles that barely responded, trying to maintain what little function remained. He wheeled himself to his bedroom, wanting only to collapse and let the pain medication drag him under. He stopped in the doorway. Someone was in his bed. The maid, Naledi, asleep on top of his covers, still in her uniform, her face soft with exhaustion. Her dark skin contrasted against his white sheets. Her curly hair had escaped its bun, spreading across his pillow. Her body, full curves, soft edges, took up space in a way that felt foreign in his sterile world. He should wake her, fire her, have security throw her out. But he didn't. Something about seeing her there, vulnerable, trusting, and utterly at ease in a space he'd claimed as his fortress, made him hesitate. And then he felt it. A stirring, low in his abdomen, pressure, heat, sensation he hadn't experienced in 15 years, flooding back like electricity through dead wires. His breath caught. Impossible. The doctors had been clear. The damage was permanent. Nerve death was nerve death. He'd accepted that truth years ago, grieved it, moved on. But his body was responding, actually responding. To the sight of this woman in his bed, her warmth radiating across his sheets, her presence disrupting the carefully controlled emptiness he'd built. Dong-hyun stared at her, mind racing. This wasn't medical, wasn't logical, but it was happening. He wheeled closer. The sensation intensified. His heart hammered. His hands gripped the armrests, knuckles white. He needed her out, needed to maintain distance, control, safety. But if she left, would the sensation disappear? Would he lose this impossible gift as quickly as it arrived? The question paralyzed him worse than the bullet ever had. Naledi woke to someone watching her. Her eyes snapped open. Dong-hyun sat in his wheelchair beside the bed, expression unreadable in the dim light. "I'm so sorry," she gasped, sitting up quickly. "I was cleaning and I just needed a minute and I—" "Stop talking." She closed her mouth, bracing for the termination she knew was coming. "How long have you been working without proper rest?" The question surprised her. Every day. But that's my job. Your job is to maintain this household. You can't do that if you collapse from exhaustion." His voice was still cold, but something underneath it had shifted. "From now on, you have 2 hours of break time in the afternoon. Use my bed if yours is too far." She blinked. "I don't understand." "You don't need to understand. Just follow the instruction." He wheeled himself toward the door, then paused. "And Naledi?" It was the first time he'd used her name. "Yes? You're not fired." He left. Naledi sat in his bed, heart pounding, completely confused about what just happened. What she didn't know was that Kim Dong-hyun had just felt something he thought was dead forever, and he'd do anything to feel it again. The next afternoon, Naledi found a note in the kitchen. "Take your break at 2 p.m. third-floor bedroom. Door will be unlocked." She stared at it, confused. Yesterday he'd been furious she'd fallen asleep in his bed. Today he was inviting her back? At 2 p.m. she climbed the stairs to the third floor. The bedroom door stood open. Dong-hyun was nowhere in sight. He was in his study. She could hear him on a phone call in Korean, voice sharp with authority. She entered his bedroom cautiously. The bed was made perfectly, just as she'd left it. She lay down on top of the covers again, careful not to disturb anything. Sleep came quickly. The exhaustion of learning a new job, a new city, a new language. It all caught up with her at once. She didn't hear Dong-hyun wheel himself to the doorway 20 minutes later. He stayed there, watching her sleep, feeling that impossible, stirring return. Stronger this time, more insistent. 15 years of nothing, and now this. He needed to understand why. Needed to test if it was real or some phantom sensation his desperate brain had invented. But testing meant proximity, meant risk, meant allowing someone close enough to destroy him. The underworld didn't forgive weakness. His enemies circled constantly, waiting for any sign that Kim Dong-hyun's reign was ending. If they knew about this, about her, they'd use her to tear him apart. But God, the sensation, the feeling of being alive again, he couldn't let it go. They fell into a routine. Every afternoon at 2 p.m., Naledi took her break in his bed. Dong-hyun made sure to be in his study or elsewhere, giving her privacy. but he always found a reason to wheel past his bedroom doorway, always checked to confirm she was there, and every time he saw her sleeping in his space, his body responded. It became an addiction, a dangerous one. On day 10, she woke before her alarm and found him in the doorway. Their eyes met. "You're watching me sleep," she said quietly. Not accusatory, just observational. "You're in my bed," he replied. "Where else should I look?" She sat up slowly, smoothing her uniform. "Why do you let me do this? You could have fired me that first night." Dong-hyun was silent for a long moment. Then, "Do you know what happened to me? I know you're in a wheelchair. I know it's permanent. That's all anyone told me. 15 years ago, a rival family ambushed my car. I survived. My wife didn't." His voice was flat, reciting facts. "The bullet severed my spine at T12. Everything below stopped working. Sensation, movement, everything." Naledi waited, sensing there was more. "The doctor said I'd live, but I wouldn't live. Do you understand the difference?" "Yes," she whispered. "I think I do. When I see you in my bed." He stopped, jaw tight. "Something responds. Something I thought was dead." She processed this slowly. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that for 15 years I've felt nothing. But when you're near, I feel something." He met her eyes. "I don't understand it, but I need it." The vulnerability in those words hung between them. Naledi realized she was seeing something no one else saw, the man beneath the Mafia king, scared and desperate and very, very human. "Is that why you want me to keep sleeping here?" she asked softly. Yes. She should have felt used, objectified. Instead, she felt something else, something complicated. What happens if this stops working? If the sensation goes away, then you go back to being just the maid. And if it doesn't? Dong-hyun's dark eyes held hers. "Then we'll figure out what comes next." The afternoon naps became more than rest for Naledi. They became the strangest intimacy she'd ever experienced, lying in a man's bed while he watched from the doorway, both of them caught in something neither understood. But the nights were different. She started noticing sounds from the third floor, groans of pain, the whir of the wheelchair at 3 a.m. Once, she heard something crash and went upstairs without thinking. Dong-hyun was on the floor beside his bed, trying to lever himself back into his wheelchair. "Don't!" he snapped when she rushed forward. "I can do it myself. You've been down there for 20 minutes. I heard you fall, and I can get back up. I know you don't need help, but you have it anyway." She moved to his side, offering her arm. "Use me as leverage. I'm stronger than I look." He stared at her for a long moment. Then, reluctantly, he gripped her arm. She braced herself, and together they got him back into his chair. He was breathing hard. So was she. "Thank you," he said finally. The words sounded rusty, unused. "You're welcome." "Naledi?" He caught her wrist before she could leave. His grip was warm, certain. "What happened in Atlanta? Why were you so desperate to leave?" She could have lied, deflected, but something about the darkness of 3 a.m. made the truth easier. "I was with someone who hurt me. Multiple times. The last time he put me in the hospital. I left, but he wouldn't stop. Showing up at my job, my apartment, calling and texting until I had to change my number. I couldn't afford to move, couldn't afford to run, until your job posting appeared." Dong-hyun's expression went cold. "His name." "What?" "The man who hurt you. His name." "Why does it matter?" "Because if he follows you here, I need to know who to kill." The words should have terrified her. Instead, she felt something warm unfold in her chest, protected, maybe for the first time in years. "Devin Wright, but he doesn't know I left the country. No one does except my old landlord." "Devin Wright," Dong-hyun repeated, committing it to memory. "If he contacts you, you tell me immediately. Understood?" "Yes." "And Naledi?" His grip on her wrist tightened slightly. "You're not going back to that. Not ever. While you're under my roof, no one touches you without your permission. Including me." "Including you," she echoed. Their eyes held in the darkness. "Go back to bed," he said finally. "You need sleep." She left, but sleep didn't come easy. Her wrist still felt warm where he'd held it. Dong-hyun called Tae-yang to his study. "I need information on someone. Devin Wright, Atlanta, Georgia. Connects to Naledi Jenkins, our current housekeeper." Tae-yang's eyebrows rose. "Oh, why?" "He's a threat to my household. Find out everything. Where he lives, where he works, who he knows, and make sure he's not looking for her." "Boss, is this wise? Getting involved in—" "Did I ask for your opinion?" "No, sir." "Then do it." Tae-yang left. Dong-hyun sat in the darkness of his study, hands steepled under his chin. He was crossing lines, blurring boundaries, letting someone matter in ways he'd sworn never to allow again. But he couldn't stop. The sensation when she was near had grown stronger. This morning, when she'd brought his breakfast, their hands had brushed. The jolt that went through him was electric. He'd actually felt it. Nerve pathways lighting up that should be dead. She was medicine, magic. A miracle wrapped in soft curves and kind eyes, and miracles in his world always came with a price. That afternoon, Naledi fell asleep in his bed as usual. But this time, Dong-hyun didn't watch from the doorway. He wheeled himself inside the bedroom, closer, until he was beside the bed where she slept. She looked peaceful. Her chest rose and fell steadily. One hand curled under her cheek like a child. Slowly, carefully, he reached out. His fingers brushed her arm. The sensation exploded through him. Not just the stirring he'd felt before, but actual feeling in his legs. Pins and needles, warmth, the phantom ghost of what he'd lost. His breath came faster. His heart hammered. She stirred slightly in her sleep, unconsciously leaning into his touch. He pulled back quickly, hands shaking. This wasn't just attraction. It was neurological. Her presence was somehow rewiring his broken nervous system, creating pathways that shouldn't exist. He needed to tell someone. A doctor, a specialist. Someone who could explain why this woman's proximity was giving him back pieces of what the bullet stole. But if he told anyone, they'd take her away, study her, use her, destroy whatever this fragile thing was between them. So he'd keep the secret, even if it killed him. The atmosphere in the penthouse changed. Dong-hyun stopped being cold. He didn't warm exactly. That would be too much. But the ice thawed to something more human. He asked her questions during breakfast, listened to her answers. Once, when she laughed at something on her phone, he asked what was funny. She showed him a meme she didn't think he'd understand, but he'd smiled. Just barely, just for a second. And she'd felt like she'd won something precious. The afternoon naps continued. But now he didn't just watch from the doorway. He'd wheel himself inside, working on his laptop or reading while she slept. His presence somehow made her sleep deeper, safer. She started learning Korean from apps on her phone. Simple phrases at first. Dong-hyun corrected her pronunciation during meals, patient in a way that surprised them both. Tae-yang noticed. "You're different," he said to Dong-hyun one evening. "How?" "Less," he searched for the word, haunted. Dong-hyun said nothing. But Tae-yang was right. For 15 years, he'd been a ghost in his own life. Now, somehow, he was remembering how to be human. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Naledi was in his bed, half asleep, when she felt the mattress dip slightly. She opened her eyes. Dong-hyun had transferred himself from wheelchair to bed. Not lying down, he couldn't do that without help, but sitting on the edge, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Did I wake you?" he asked. "No." She sat up slowly. They were inches apart now, close enough to see the silver threaded through his dark hair, the scar on his temple she'd never asked about. "What are you doing?" "Testing something." "Testing what?" Instead of answering, he reached out and touched her face. His palm cupped her cheek, thumb brushing her jawline. The feeling that shot through him made him close his eyes. "There," he whispered. "You feel that?" "Feel what?" "Everything." He opened his eyes, dark and intense. "When I touch you, I feel everything, not just here." He gestured vaguely at his lower body, "But everywhere, like my nerves are waking up after 15 years of sleep." Naledi's breath caught. Is that medically possible?" "No, which is why I can't tell anyone." His hand dropped from her face, but he didn't move away. "You want to know why I really asked you to sleep here? It's not just about the physical response, it's about hope. For 15 years, I've been dead from the waist down. But you make me remember what being alive feels like." Dong-hyun. It was the first time she'd used his given name. "You can leave if this is too much. I'll give you severance, recommendations, anything you need. But I'm asking you to stay. Not as my maid. As..." He stopped, struggling. "As something else. I don't have a word for it yet." She should run. This was insane. Impossible. A Korean mafia king in a wheelchair, dependent on her presence for sensation he shouldn't have. It was codependent at best, dangerous at worst. But when had Naledi ever chosen safe? "I'll stay," she whispered. "But we need rules." "What kind of rules?" "I'm not your cure. I'm not your miracle. I'm just a woman who happens to make your body respond. Don't put that burden on me." "Fair. And I need to understand your world, the danger, the enemies. All of it. No more secrets." Dong-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then, "That's a dangerous request. I'm already in danger just by being here, aren't I?" "Yes." "Then I deserve to know why." He nodded slowly. "All right, tonight. I'll tell you everything." They sat in his study. Her on the sofa, him in his wheelchair, a bottle of whiskey on the table between them that he didn't touch. "What do you know about organized crime in Seoul?" he asked. "Nothing." "Good. Keep it that way." He paused. "But since you insist on understanding, my family has controlled the underground in Gangnam for 3 generations. Drugs, weapons, protection, information. If it's illegal and profitable, we touch it." Naledi listened, trying not to show her shock. 15 years ago, a rival family tried to take our territory, the Park family. They ambushed my car when my wife was with me. She was pregnant. His voice didn't waver, but his hands tightened on the armrests. The bullet that paralyzed me went through her first. She died at the scene. So did my unborn son. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I destroyed the Park family after that, every last one of them. It took 5 years, but I eliminated every person who had anything to do with that ambush. He met her eyes. I'm not a good man, Naledi. I never was. The wheelchair didn't change that. It just made me more efficient, harder to kill. People underestimate a man in a wheelchair. They shouldn't. Why are you telling me this? Because if you stay, you need to know what you're stepping into. I have enemies. They'd love to find a weakness in me. And you, Naledi Jenkins, are becoming my greatest weakness. The words hung in the air between them. Who are your enemies? She asked quietly. The Shu clan from China, the Kang brothers, a few ambitious lieutenants who think my condition makes me vulnerable. He leaned forward. If they found out about you, about what you do to me, they'd use you, kidnap you to control me, or kill you to hurt me. Then why risk it? Why not just fire me and keep yourself safe? Because I'm selfish. The raw honesty in his voice hit her hard. Because for 15 years I've been half dead, and you make me feel alive. Because I'd rather risk everything than go back to the nothing I had before. Naledi absorbed this. What do you want from me? Stay close, let me keep feeling, and help me figure out if this is temporary, or if you've somehow rewired my nervous system permanently. And if it's temporary, then I'll have had something beautiful for a little while. He wheeled himself closer. Is that enough for you? She thought about Atlanta, about Devon's fists, about running and hiding and always being afraid, about taking this insane job in a foreign country because she had no other choice. Maybe it was time to stop running from danger and start walking toward it on her own terms. It's enough, she said, but I have conditions. Name them. You teach me to protect myself. Your world, your rules, your enemies, I learn all of it. I'm not going to be helpless. Dong-hyun smiled for the second time since she'd met him. Deal. And that retaliation you did against the Park family? If Devon finds me. Yeah, I want the same. His smile widened. Sharp, dangerous, exactly what she needed. Oh, Naledi, for you I'd make it worse. Something in her chest settled. Found home. Then we have a deal, Mr. Kim. Dong-hyun, if you're going to be my weakness, you should use my name. Dong-hyun, she repeated. The syllables felt foreign and intimate on her tongue. Better. He extended his hand. Partners? She shook it. His grip was warm, certain, exactly as strong as hers. Partners. Neither of them knew that decision would save both their lives. Comment bait embedded in Act 1. The reveal of Devon's abuse and Dong-hyun's promise of retaliation is designed to make viewers comment about justice, protection, and whether they've experienced similar situations. The physical awakening element will drive debate about whether it's realistic or romantic. The partners moment creates team picking. Team Dong-hyun or Team Naledi. Naledi's education started at dawn. Taeyang arrived at 5 a.m. with a woman Naledi hadn't met. Small, fierce, Korean, with hands that moved like knives. This is Aaron, Dong-hyun said from his position near the windows. She'll teach you basics, self-defense, threat assessment, how to move in my world without painting a target on your back. Aaron bowed slightly. We start now. For 2 hours every morning, before the rest of the house woke, Naledi learned how to break a hold, where to strike to disable an attacker, how to read a room for exits and weapons, how to walk through Gangnam streets without screaming foreign and vulnerable. It hurt. Her body ached in ways she didn't know possible, but she pushed through. Dong-hyun watched every session from his wheelchair, dark eyes tracking her movements. Once, when she landed a particularly good hit on the practice dummy, he nodded approval. That nod felt better than any praise she'd ever received. The routine continued. 2 p.m., his bed, her sleeping while he worked nearby. But now, sometimes, they talked. She told him about growing up in foster care, the good homes and the bad ones, the foster mother who'd taught her to cook and the foster father who'd stolen her savings, the way she'd learned to make herself small, invisible, safe. You're not small anymore, Dong-hyun observed one afternoon. You take up space like you own it. Your bed makes me bold, she said, then blushed. That came out wrong. Did it? His voice carried a thread of something warm, amused. Maybe I like you bold. Their eyes met. The air shifted. Naledi sat up slowly. Dong-hyun, what are we doing? I don't know, he admitted, but I don't want to stop. Neither do I. She moved closer, watching his face for any sign of discomfort. Can I try something? What? This? She reached out and touched his hand, threaded her fingers through his. Does that feel like anything? He closed his eyes. Yes. Where? Everywhere. His hand tightened on hers. It's like every nerve ending is firing at once, like I'm being electrocuted in the best possible way. She moved his hand to her cheek, the way he'd touched her before. And this? Naledi. Her name sounded like a prayer. This is dangerous. I know. If I let myself want you more than I already do, then let yourself want me. She moved closer still until she was kneeling on the bed beside his wheelchair. I'm tired of pretending I don't feel this too. Whatever this is. You don't understand what you're offering. Then tell me. Dong-hyun's jaw worked. In my world, attachment is weakness. The woman I love becomes a target. My wife died because of me, because loving me made her vulnerable. I won't do that to you. You're not doing anything to me. I'm choosing this. There's a difference. Is there? She leaned in until their foreheads almost touched. You said I make you feel alive. You do the same for me. Atlanta made me small, scared. You make me brave. I'm not giving that up because it's dangerous. Danger is everywhere, at least here. I'm facing it on my own terms. Dong-hyun's breath hitched. You're sure? I'm sure. Then God help us both. He pulled her closer, surprising strength in his arms, and kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't testing. It was 15 years of hunger and loneliness and need pouring into one desperate moment. Naledi kissed him back with equal hunger. Her hands found his face, his shoulders, his chest, mapping the warm, alive parts of him that worked, that responded, that wanted. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Dong-hyun's eyes were blown black with want. How much do you feel? She whispered. More every day. When you're close, I swear I can feel my legs. It's phantom sensation, impossible, but it's there. Show me. He took her hand and placed it on his thigh. Touch me here. She did. His leg was warm through his slacks, the muscle atrophied, but still present. I can feel that, he said softly, not sharply, not like before. But I feel the pressure, the warmth, you. Dong-hyun, don't tell anyone, please. If the wrong people found out, I won't. I promise. She kissed him again, softer this time. This stays between us. Between us, he echoed. Then, I need you to do something for me. What? Tonight, instead of sleeping in your room, stay here, in my bed, with me. Her heart hammered. Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking you to sleep beside me. That's all. I want to see if proximity overnight changes anything. If the sensation gets stronger. Just sleep, unless you want more. The offer hung between them. Let me think about it, Naledi said finally. This is a lot. Take all the time you need. He released her hand reluctantly. But Naledi, yes? Thank you for making me feel human again. Naledi appeared in his doorway at 10 p.m. wearing pajamas, soft pants, and a tank top. Her hair was loose, curly, falling around her shoulders. Dong-hyun was already in bed, propped against pillows. The wheelchair sat nearby. The lights were dim. You came, he said. I said I'd think about it. I thought about it. She climbed into bed beside him, careful not to jostle him. Is this okay? More than okay. They lay side by side, not touching, just breathing the same air. The silence stretched comfortable and strange. Tell me something true, Naledi said finally. About what? About you. Something no one else knows. Dong-hyun was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. And then, I'm terrified every day that I'll wake up and this will be gone, that you'll stop making me feel, that I'll go back to being the dead man in the chair. You were never dead. You were just waiting. For what? For me. She rolled onto her side to face him. I don't think this is random, Dong-hyun. I don't think I'm just some maid who happened to fall asleep in the right bed. I think we were supposed to find each other. I don't believe in fate. Neither did I. But here we are. He reached for her hand in the darkness, found it, held it. Here we are. They fell asleep like that, fingers intertwined, breathing synchronized, two broken people finding something whole in each other. And in the morning, when Dong-hyun woke, he felt something he hadn't felt in 15 years. He felt his toes. Or the changes came fast after that. Dong-hyun could feel more, not just phantom sensation, but actual nerve response. When Naledi touched his legs during their physical therapy sessions, she'd convinced him to let her help. He could tell her exactly where her hands were without looking. He started standing. Not for long, not without support, but with the help of parallel bars and Naledi's hands steadying him, he could lock his knees and hold his weight for 30 seconds at a time. The physical therapist was shocked. I don't understand. You've been at Plateau for years. What changed? I changed, Dong-hyun said, meeting Naledi's eyes across the therapy room. At night, she slept in his bed. They didn't have sex. He wasn't ready physically or emotionally, and she respected that. But they learned each other in other ways. The way she liked her back rubbed before sleep. The way he needed her to talk about mundane things when the phantom pain got bad, to distract him from hurting. They learned to be a unit. Taeyang noticed. You're walking, he said one morning, watching Dong-hyun stand for a full minute at the parallel bars. I'm trying. Because of her. Because of me, Dong-hyun corrected. She just gave me a reason. Taeyang's expression was complicated. Boss, you know I'm loyal. But I have to say this. If your enemies find out about her, they won't. They will. They always do. And when they figure out she's your weakness, then I'll destroy anyone who touches her. Dong Hyun's voice went cold. Make sure our security knows she's under my protection. Anyone who harms her answers to me personally. Understood. But Taeyang left looking worried. Because in their world, protection wasn't enough. Love was a death sentence. It came in the form of flowers. Naledi found them outside her bedroom door one morning. Black roses, expensive, with a note in English. Beautiful things break so easily, especially when they don't belong. She brought them to Dong Hyun immediately. His face went dark. Who delivered these? I don't know. They were just there when I woke up. He called Taeyang. Review every camera feed from last night. Someone got into this building and left a threat. Find them. Taeyang paled. Boss, our security is not good enough. Find them, now. After Taeyang left, Dong Hyun looked at Naledi. Pack a bag. You're moving to the 3rd floor. My bedroom. Permanently. Why? Because if someone got this close once, they'll do it again, and I won't risk you. Dong Hyun, I can't live in your room. You already sleep there every night. This just makes it official. He took her hand. I know this is fast. I know this is insane. But please, let me keep you safe. She wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could take care of herself, but the black roses in her hand made her pause, because whoever sent them knew exactly where she slept. Knew enough to leave them outside her door without triggering any alarms. That was professional. Dangerous. Okay, she said finally, but you're teaching me to shoot. Deal. They went to Dong Hyun's private range in the basement, a room Naledi hadn't known existed, soundproofed and armed with enough weapons to supply a small army. This is my world, Dong Hyun said, showing her how to hold a Glock 19. Welcome to it, she learned fast. The weight of the gun, the kick, the way to breathe and squeeze rather than pull the trigger. By the end of 2 hours, she could hit center mass at 15 yards. Good, Dong Hyun said, watching her empty a magazine. But not good enough. In a real situation, you need to aim here. He pointed to his head. And here. His heart. Anywhere else, they might survive long enough to hurt you. You're teaching me to kill. I'm teaching you to survive. There's a difference. Naledi ejected the magazine, checked the chamber like he'd taught her. Who do you think sent the flowers? I have suspicions. Tell me. He hesitated. Then, there's a faction in my organization that thinks I'm weak, that my condition makes me unfit to lead. They've been quiet for years, but lately there's been noise, small rebellions, territory disputes, someone testing my limits. And they think I'm the limit? They think you're my weakness. And they're not wrong. He wheeled closer. But what they don't understand is that weakness can be strength. You make me more dangerous, not less. How? Because now I have something to lose. And a man with something to lose will burn the world down to protect it. The words should have scared her. Instead, they made her feel safe, protected, valued. Then let's make sure no one tests you, she said. Naledi stopped being just the maid, stopped being just the woman who made Dong Hyun feel. She started observing his business. She sat in on meetings, silent, invisible, serving tea while men in expensive suits discussed territory and money laundering and shipments. Dong Hyun pretended not to control. She learned names, faces, who deferred to Dong Hyun and who challenged him with barely concealed contempt. She learned the hierarchy, the power structure, the weaknesses, and she started noticing things Dong Hyun missed. The man in the gray suit, she said one night after a particularly tense meeting. He was lying. About what? About the shipment from Busan. He said it arrived on Thursday, but you got the manifest Wednesday. I saw it on your desk. Dong Hyun went still. You're sure? Positive. Which means either he's skimming product or he's working with someone who is. He stared at her. How did you catch that? I pay attention. You taught me that. She met his eyes. You want me to dig deeper? You're not an operative, Naledi. No, I'm something better. I'm invisible. They look right through me because I'm the black woman pouring tea. Let me use that. Dong Hyun considered this. It's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. Fair point. He nodded slowly. All right. But you report everything to me, and if anything feels wrong, you pull back immediately. Deal. That was the moment Naledi Jenkins stopped being a victim and started becoming a weapon. Over the next week, Naledi became Dong Hyun's secret eyes. She learned to move through his organization like a ghost, refilling drinks, clearing plates, always there, never noticed. She overheard conversations not meant for her. A lieutenant complaining about Dong Hyun's soft leadership. Another discussing moving operations when the cripple finally steps down. A third talking about a shipment that didn't match the books. She reported everything to Dong Hyun. His response was surgical, quiet, ruthless. The lieutenant who complained disappeared. The one discussing his leadership found his own operations raided and his assets frozen. The one skimming product woke up to federal agents at his door. Dong-hyun never said how he'd done it, but Naledi knew the pieces connected back to information she'd gathered. "You're terrifyingly good at this," he said one evening. "I had good teachers. Foster care teaches you to read people, to know who's dangerous and who's just loud. And which am I? Both, and neither." She curled into his side, their nightly position now, comfortable and familiar. "You're dangerous when you need to be, but you're not cruel. There's a difference. I've done cruel things, Naledi. To protect yourself and the people you love, that's not the same as cruelty for its own sake." She looked up at him. "Devon was cruel. He hurt me because it made him feel powerful. You hurt people because they're threats. I can live with the second. I never could with the first." Dong-hyun kissed her forehead. "You see the best in me. I see all of you. I just choose to love the whole picture." The word, love, hung between them. Neither acknowledged it, but it settled into their bones, quiet and certain. Dong-hyun stood without assistance for 5 minutes straight. It happened during a therapy session. Naledi was spotting him at the parallel bars when suddenly he let go. Just stood there, knees locked, to weight on his own legs. "Dong-hyun, don't touch me. Let me feel this." She stepped back, hands ready to catch him, heart in her throat. He stood for 1 minute, 2, 3. His legs shook, sweat beaded his forehead, but he didn't fall. At 5 minutes, he gripped the bars again, lowering himself carefully back to his wheelchair. "I did it," he whispered. "I fucking did it." Naledi laughed, tears streaming down her face. "You did it. Because of you." "No, because of you. I just gave you a reason." He pulled her close, kissing her hard. Same thing. That night they celebrated. Real celebration. A bottle of wine, takeout from his favorite restaurant, laughter that echoed through the penthouse like it hadn't in years. "What's next?" Naledi asked. "Walking. Real walking. Not just standing. If I can get my legs strong enough. I might be able to use a cane instead of the chair." "How long?" "Months. Maybe a year. But for the first time in 15 years, I have a goal." He took her hand. "And I have you. Always," she promised. She meant it. The next attack came differently. Naledi was shopping in Gangnam, escorted by 2 of Dong-hyun's security, as required, when a car jumped the curb. 1 second she was walking. The next, strong hands shoved her sideways. She hit the ground hard as the car roared past, close enough to feel the heat of its engine. Her security hauled her up immediately. "Are you hurt?" "No, what?" "That was deliberate." The lead guard spoke rapidly into his radio in Korean. "They tried to hit you." The car was gone. Disappeared into Seoul's traffic like smoke. By the time they got her back to the penthouse, the Dong-hyun was incandescent with rage. "Who?" he bit out. "Who tried to kill her?" "We're working on it, boss. The car had fake plates, but there were cameras." "I don't care about cameras. I want names. I want blood. And I want it now." Taeyang left quickly. Dong-hyun turned to Naledi. She was shaking, adrenaline crash hitting hard. He wheeled to her immediately, pulled her into his lap despite the awkwardness. "You're okay. You're safe. I have you." "They tried to run me down," she whispered. "I know. And I'm going to find out who and make them regret being born." "Why me? What did I do?" "You exist. You matter to me. In my world, that's enough." He held her tighter. "I'm sorry, Naledi. I should have protected you better. You did protect me. Your guards saved my life. Barely." She pulled back to look at him. "Dong-hyun, I'm not leaving. You know that, right? This doesn't change anything." "It should. You should run far away from me and never look back." "Too bad. You're stuck with me." She kissed him fiercely. "We're partners, remember?" "Partners," he echoed, but his eyes were dark with worry. It took Taeyang 3 days to identify the driver. "Low-level muscle from the Kang brothers organization," he reported. "They hired him to scare her, specifically her. They knew who she was and what she means to you." "The Kang brothers." Dong-hyun's voice went flat. "Dangerous. They think they can target mine? Boss, they're testing you. Seeing if your attachment makes you weak, then let's show them exactly how weak I am." He looked at Naledi. "You want to see what real retaliation looks like?" She nodded. "Yes, then watch and learn." What followed was a masterclass in controlled violence. Dong-hyun didn't kill the Kang brothers. That would be too quick. Instead, he dismantled everything they'd built, their businesses raided by authorities who suddenly developed aggressive interest in tax evasion, their supply lines cut, their protection evaporating as Dong-hyun called in every favor he had. Within a week, the Kang brothers were ruined. Within 2, they were begging for mercy. Dong-hyun gave them none. He invited them to his penthouse, a summons they couldn't refuse, and made them kneel before his wheelchair. Naledi watched from the doorway, silent and still. "You tried to kill her," Dong-hyun said quietly, dangerously. "Explain why I shouldn't do the same to you." We didn't. It was a warning. A warning. You tried to run down the woman I love and called it a warning. His voice dropped to ice. Let me give you a warning in return. If anyone in this city so much as looks at her wrong, I will know, and I will respond. Not with warnings, with endings. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Good. Now get out of my city. You have 24 hours before I change my mind about letting you live. They ran. After they left, Dong-hyun wheeled to where Naledi stood. Did you see? I saw. That retaliation against your old boss? It showed me you're real. Now let's think smarter. Her voice echoed what she'd seen. You protected me, brutally, completely. I always will. She knelt beside his wheelchair, taking his hands. I know, and I love you for it. The words, finally spoken aloud, hung between them. You love me, Dong-hyun repeated slowly. I do. Is that a problem? The biggest one I've ever had. He cupped her face. Because I love you too. And love in my world gets people killed. Then we'll be smarter than everyone else, deadlier. Better. She kissed him. We're already halfway there. He kissed her back deeper, kneading. God, Naledi, what have you done to me? Woken you up, just like you woke me. That night they made love for the first time. It was slow, careful. Dong-hyun still couldn't feel everything, but he could feel enough. And what he couldn't feel physically, he felt emotionally. The intimacy of her trust, her body, her gasps against his neck, as he used his hands to bring her pleasure. I can feel you, he whispered afterward, both of them tangled in his sheets. When you're close like this, I swear I can feel everything. Then I'll stay close forever. Promise me. I promise. But promises in their world were fragile things, and the biggest threat was still coming. The car attack creates urgency and fear. The retaliation scene gives viewers justice satisfaction. The love confession and first intimate scene creates emotional investment. Viewers will comment on whether Dong-hyun's retaliation was justified, whether the romance feels earned, and what they think happens next. Team dynamics deepen. Are you team run away or team stay and fight? For 3 perfect weeks they existed in a bubble. Dong-hyun walked 20 steps with a cane, then 30, then 50. His physical therapist called it miraculous. Naledi called it stubborn determination. Dong-hyun called it love making the impossible possible. They moved through their days like a married couple. Breakfast together, her sitting in on business meetings, him watching her train with Aaron, nights tangled in each other, testing what his body could feel and celebrating every new sensation. She learned Korean faster, practicing with him during quiet evenings. He learned to trust someone completely for the first time since his wife died. Tae-yang watched them with growing unease. Boss, I need to talk to you, privately. Naledi is my partner. She hears everything. Tae-yang glanced at her. It's about her. Naledi stiffened. Dong-hyun's expression went cold. Explain. Devin Wright, her ex, he's been making inquiries. The bottom dropped out of Naledi's stomach. What kind of inquiries? Looking for you. He knows you left Atlanta. He's been calling your old landlord, your friends, anyone who might know where you went. So far, no one's told him anything concrete, but it's only a matter of time, Dong-hyun finished. His jaw was tight. How did you find this out? I've been monitoring him like you asked. He's persistent, obsessed. He's convinced you belong to him. Tae-yang looked at Naledi. I'm sorry to tell you this, but he's dangerous. More dangerous than we initially assessed. Naledi felt cold. He's coming for me. Not if I kill him first, Dong-hyun said flatly. You can't just... Watch me. He looked at Tae-yang. Get me everything on Devin Wright. Where he lives, where he works, his routines, his vulnerabilities. I want a complete profile by tomorrow. Boss, if you're thinking of moving on him, I'm not thinking. I'm planning. He hurt her. He's looking for her. He's a threat. I eliminate threats. Dong-hyun. Naledi touched his arm. This is different than dealing with the Kang brothers. Devin's in America. You can't just reach across the ocean and destroy him without international consequences. You'd be surprised what I can reach. I don't doubt that, but I'm asking you not to. She knelt beside his wheelchair. If you kill him, it traces back to me. To us. I don't want our life built on his blood. Our life is already built on blood. Mine. Yours. Everyone who tried to hurt us. This is different. How? Because Devin's not a gangster. He's just an abuser. A pathetic man who needs to hurt women to feel powerful. You kill him, you make him important. You make him matter. She held his gaze. Let's be smarter than that. Dong-hyun was silent for a long moment. And then, what do you suggest? Ruin him another way. You're good at that. Make him lose his job, his money, his reputation. Leave him alive but broken. That's worse than death for men like him. A slow, dark smile spread across Dong-hyun's face. You're terrifying when you think like me. I learned from the best. He kissed her, rough and claiming. All right, we'll do it your way. But Tae-yang? Yes, boss? If Devin Wright so much as steps foot in South Korea, he doesn't leave alive. Clear? Crystal. What Dong Hyun did to Devin Wright over the next 2 weeks was elegant brutality. Devin lost his job first, a mysterious tip to HR about sexual harassment that multiple women suddenly felt safe reporting. Then his apartment, the lease terminated for behavior violations that weren't explained. Then his bank accounts, frozen pending investigation of financial irregularities. Dong Hyun had reach, long reach, and he used every inch of it to systematically dismantle Devin's life. Naledi watched it happen from Seoul, feeling nothing but satisfaction. You're thorough. I'm invested. Dong Hyun handed her his tablet showing Devin's latest social media post, a desperate rant about being targeted by enemies he couldn't name. He'll never connect this to you. As far as he knows, his life just fell apart naturally. When it was you pulling every string. With your permission, she kissed him. Thank you for making him irrelevant instead of dead. He's not irrelevant yet, but he will be. By the time I'm done, he'll be so busy surviving he'll forget he ever knew your name. The internal betrayal started small. A shipment went missing. Not unusual. Theft happened in their world. But this was different. The timing was too precise. The loss too calculated. Then, a meeting got raided by police, tipped off minutes before it started. Everyone scattered. But the message was clear. Someone inside was talking. Dong Hyun called an emergency meeting with his key lieutenants. 8 men sat around his table, all claiming loyalty, all insisting they had no idea who the mole could be. Naledi served tea and watched faces. One man, Jae-sung, mid-40s, ambitious, smiled too much, laughed too loud at Dong Hyun's comments, performed loyalty like he'd practiced it. She caught his eye once. He looked right through her, dismissive, exactly like all the others. That night she reported to Dong Hyun. It's Jae-sung. You're certain? He's trying too hard. And everyone else was worried, angry, defensive. He was performing like he already knew he wasn't the target. Dong Hyun's eyes narrowed. Good catch, but we need proof before I move. Then let me get it. Naledi suggested a plan. Dong Hyun would hold another meeting, announce a fake shipment worth millions, arriving at a specific location at a specific time. Only his inner circle would know the details. Then they'd watch who leaked it. It's dangerous, Dong Hyun warned. If Jae-sung realizes you're involved, he won't. I'm just the maid who pours tea, remember? The meeting happened 2 days later. Naledi served drinks and stayed invisible. Jae-sung barely glanced at her. The fake shipment information was delivered. Warehouse 7, Incheon Port, Friday midnight. Within hours, police announced a raid planned for that exact location at that exact time. Jae-sung had leaked it. Dong Hyun's smile was cold. Got him. They didn't kill Jae-sung, not immediately. Dong Hyun invited him to the penthouse, just him, alone, under the guise of discussing the raid and how they'd narrowly avoided it. Jae-sung arrived confident, smug, still performing loyalty. Whoever's leaking information is clever, he said, accepting the whiskey Naledi poured. But we'll find them, boss. I guarantee it. I already found them, Dong Hyun said quietly. Jae-sung froze. What? The shipment was fake. The information false. The only people who knew about it were in that meeting. Dong Hyun leaned forward in his wheelchair. And you were the only one who leaked it. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult me by lying. Dong Hyun's voice went flat, deadly. Why? Money? Ambition? Revenge? Jae-sung's mask cracked, his expression twisted into something ugly. You're weak. Everyone can see it. A cripple playing king from a wheelchair while your black bitch makes you soft. The organization needs real leadership. The room temperature dropped. Dong Hyun said. There it is. You think my condition makes me vulnerable. You think she makes me weak. She does. You used to be feared. Now you're a joke. The cripple who needs a woman to make him feel like a man. Naledi's hands clenched, but she stayed silent. This was Dong Hyun's moment. You're right about one thing, Dong Hyun said, standing slowly from his wheelchair. His legs shook but held. She does make me feel like a man again, but not because I'm weak. He took 3 steps forward, leaning on his cane, towering over Jae-sung despite the obvious effort. Because she makes me stronger, smart enough to set traps, patient enough to watch them spring, ruthless enough to do what comes next. He nodded to Taeyang, who'd been waiting in the shadows. 2 guards appeared, seizing Jae-sung by the arms. You had potential, Dong Hyun continued. I would have given you more territory, more responsibility. But you mistook patience for weakness, love for vulnerability. That's where you failed. You're making a mistake. No, you made the mistake, and now you pay for it. He looked at Taeyang. Take him to the warehouse. Make sure everyone sees what happens to traitors. Make it slow. Make it memorable. Jae-sung paled. Boss, please. You called her a bitch, insulted her in my house, betrayed my trust. Dong Hyun's eyes went black. There is no mercy for that. They dragged Jae-sung away screaming. After they left, Dong-hyun collapsed back into his wheelchair, breathing hard from the exertion of standing. Naledi was beside him immediately. Are you okay? Physically? I'll recover. Emotionally? He took her hand. I'm furious someone spoke about you that way. Called you those things. I've been called worse. Not in my presence, not in my world. He pulled her close. I meant what I said. You make me stronger. Anyone who doesn't see that is blind. She kissed him deeply. I know. But Dong-hyun, what did you just order them to do to Jae-sung? What he earned? You're going to kill him? Yes. She absorbed this. Because he betrayed you or because he insulted me? Both, but mostly the second. Naledi should have felt horror, should have protested. Instead, she felt that dangerous warmth again. Protection, fierce and absolute. I'm not going to tell you not to, she said quietly. But I want you to know, I don't need you to kill for me. I know, but I need to kill for you. There's a difference. She understood. In his world, this was love. Violent, absolute, uncompromising. Then do what you need to do, she said. Just come back to me after. Always. After Jae-sung's execution, details she didn't ask about and Dong-hyun didn't share, the organization stabilized. The remaining lieutenants fell in line. The leak stopped. Business resumed. But something had shifted. Naledi was no longer invisible. The men in meetings started acknowledging her presence, nodding when she entered, answering questions she asked about logistics and timelines. She wasn't just the maid anymore. She was Dong-hyun's partner, publicly acknowledged, his secret weapon, the woman who'd caught a traitor when no one else suspected. If you're watching this and you're on Team Naledi rising to power, drop a comment below telling me what you love about her character. And if you think Dong-hyun's retaliation was too extreme or completely justified, let me know which side you're on. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Love and Tension for more stories that keep you guessing. Dong-hyun noticed the change. They respect you now. They fear me. And there's a difference. Is there? She considered this. Maybe not in your world. He pulled her into his lap, something he did now that he had enough core strength to support both their weights. Does it bother you? Being feared? I used to think I wanted to be loved, accepted, safe. She met his eyes. But fear keeps me safer than love ever did. Devin loved me in his twisted way. Look where that got me. Your enemies fear me, and that keeps them at a distance. You're learning. I had a good teacher. They kissed, slow and deep. When they broke apart, Dong-hyun's expression was serious. I need to tell you something. What? I'm walking now, really walking. Not just standing or 20 steps with a cane. This morning, I walked from my bedroom to the study without stopping. 57 steps. Joy exploded through her. Dong-hyun, that's incredible. It's because of you, your presence, your touch. You've literally rewired my nervous system through some mechanism I don't understand, and doctors can't explain. You're my miracle. You're your own miracle. I just helped. No, he cupped her face. You saved me. In every way a person can be saved. I was dead before you. Now, I'm alive. So what happens now? His expression grew determined. Now we prepare for war. What do you mean? Jae-sung wasn't working alone. Someone bigger put him up to betrayal. Someone who wants to take over my organization. The leak about the fake shipment going to police that fast, that required connections, power, resources beyond what Jae-sung had. Naledi felt cold. You think someone major is moving against you. I know someone is. And when they make their real move, it won't be subtle. It'll be an all-out assault designed to end me permanently. Then we'll be ready. Naledi, this is different than dealing with traitors or abusive exes. This is warfare. People will die violently. You could die. I know. And you're still staying? She kissed him fiercely. I'm not just staying. I'm fighting beside you. Partners, remember? That means the good and the bad and the blood. Dong-hyun held her tighter. Then we prepare. Together. Aaron's morning sessions became brutal. Naledi learned not just self-defense, but offense. How to disable a man twice her size. Where to cut to cause maximum bleeding. How to use improvised weapons. Pens, belts, keys to deadly effect. She learned to shoot multiple weapon types. Pistols, rifles. Even Dong-hyun's personal favorite. A modified Beretta that felt comfortable in her increasingly confident grip. You're a natural, he said, watching her empty a magazine into a target's center mass. I'm motivated. There's a difference. She also learned the business, really learned it. Dong-hyun walked her through everything. The money laundering, the protection rackets, the information brokering, the legitimate businesses that fronted illegal operations, the web of corruption that kept them all untouchable. If something happens to me, he said one night, you need to know how to run this, how to protect yourself. Nothing's going to happen to you. Naledi, I mean it. I won't let it. We've come too far for you to die now. She took his hand. You're walking, you're healing. You're becoming the man you were before the bullet, but better, stronger. Oh, we're not losing that. He pulled her close. You're fierce when you're protective. I learned from you. The warning came from an unexpected source. A woman appeared at the penthouse gate. Expensive clothes, designer sunglasses, the bearing of someone who'd never been told no. Security tried to turn her away. She insisted on seeing Dong-hyun, said her name, Park Hae-in. Dong-hyun went pale. Let her up. Naledi watched confusion turn to understanding on his face. Park? As in the family I destroyed after they killed my wife. His jaw was tight. She's the youngest sister, only survivor. Park Hae-in entered the penthouse like she owned it. Beautiful, cold, radiating controlled fury. She ignored Naledi completely, spoke directly to Dong-hyun in rapid Korean. He answered in English, forcing her to switch. Speak so Naledi understands. She's my partner. Hae-in's eyes flicked to Naledi, dismissive, then back. Your partner? How touching. The cripple found comfort in the help. Watch your words very carefully, Dong-hyun said softly. I destroyed your family once. I can destroy you too. You missed one. Hae-in smiled, sharp and bitter. Me? I was studying abroad when you murdered everyone I loved. I've spent 15 years building power, waiting for the right moment to return the favor. And you're here now to gloat? I'm here to warn you. Because despite everything, I'm not a monster like you. She pulled out a phone, showed him something. The Zhu clan from China and the remaining Kang associates have formed an alliance. Their target? You. They're planning a coordinated strike on your compound within the next 2 weeks. Dong-hyun's expression didn't change. Why tell me? Because I want to watch you squirm. I want you to prepare and fight and think you might survive. Before I pull my own trigger. You took everything from me. I'll return the favor. But I want it to be personal. Face to face. Not some cowardly ambush. Her eyes were black with hate. I want to see your face when you realize you've lost everything, just like I did. She turned to leave, paused. And the black woman, she dies first. I've been watching. I know what she means to you. When she's gone, then you'll understand what I felt. Then, we'll be even. She left. Silence filled the penthouse. She's serious, Naledi said finally. I know. She's going to try to kill me first. I know. So what do we do? Dong-hyun's expression went cold, calculated, deadly. We use her information to prepare for the Shu Kong assault. Then we end Park Hae-in before she can make her move. You're going to kill the last survivor. Yes. To protect me. Yes. He met her eyes. Without hesitation. Without regret. She threatened you. That's the only mistake she needed to make. Naledi should have argued. Should have looked for another way. But Park Hae-in had promised to kill her first, make Dong-hyun watch, turn his miracle into his nightmare. No, there was no other way. Then we prepare for war, Naledi said. All of it. Over the next week, the penthouse transformed into a fortress, additional security, surveillance systems upgraded, weapons stockpiled. Mi Taeyang recruited reinforcements, loyal men who'd die for Dong-hyun without question. Naledi trained until her hands bled, practiced shooting until she could hit moving targets, learned evacuation routes through the building, memorized the compound's defensive positions. Dong-hyun walked more each day, building strength. If this was the fight that decided everything, he'd face it on his feet, not from his chair. They made love every night like it might be their last time. Desperate, claiming. Two people knowing death was coming but refusing to let it win before they'd had their fill of each other. If this goes wrong, Dong-hyun said one night, promise me you'll run. Don't try to save me. Just run. No. Naledi? I said no. We stand together or we fall together. That was always the deal. I could order you. You could try, she kissed him. But I'm not your employee anymore, remember? I'm your partner, your equal. You don't get to order me to safety while you face death alone. He stared at her for a long moment, then smiled. Real, genuine, full of pride and love and something else. Wonder, maybe. When did you become so fierce? When I met a man brave enough to let me. They held each other in the darkness, knowing the storm was coming, ready to face it together. The Devon resolution gives viewers justice satisfaction. Jae-sung's betrayal and execution creates moral debate. Was it deserved? Park Hae-in's entrance brings the past crashing back and raises the stakes. The promise to die together rather than run creates emotional investment. Viewers will comment on whether they'd stay or run, whether Dong-hyun's violence is justified, and what they predict happens next. Team discussion intensifies. Who do you want to survive? How far would you go for love? The attack came exactly when Park Hae-in said it would, 2 weeks later, midnight. The compound lights flickered once. Electromagnetic pulse knocking out their primary systems. Backup generators kicked in 3 seconds later, but that gap was enough. The outer gates exploded inward. Naledi was in Dong-hyun's bedroom when the alarm screamed. She grabbed the gun from the nightstand, a Glock 19, loaded, safety off, and moved to the window. Below, chaos. 20 men, maybe more, pouring through the breached gates. Military-grade weapons, coordinated movements, professional. Shu clan, Dong-hyun said from behind her, are pulling on body armor with practiced efficiency. Kang's people will hit from the south entrance, two-pronged assault. How do you know? Because it's what I would do. He handed her a vest. Put this on. Stay close to me. Where's Tai Yang? Coordinating defense. He knows the plan. They moved to the study. The most defensible room, reinforced walls, multiple exits. Tai Yang was already there with 6 guards, monitoring security feeds. Status? Dong-hyun demanded. 32 hostiles confirmed. They've breached outer perimeter. Second wave coming from south. We're outnumbered 3-1. And Park Hae-in? No sign yet. She's waiting. Naledi studied the screens. The attackers were moving methodically, clearing rooms, taking out security systematically. Professional, deadly. But they were also following predictable patterns. They're using standard breach protocol, she said quietly. Dong-hyun looked at her. What? Watch. She pointed to the screens. They're clearing left to right, always covering corners, moving in pairs. It's textbook, which means they're expecting standard defense. And standard defense is what? Retreat upward, force them to climb, bottleneck them in stairwells. She met his eyes. What if we don't retreat? What if we attack? Ta Yang stared. That's suicide. We're outnumbered. We're not outnumbered. We're concentrated. Naledi's mind raced, pieces clicking together from weeks of training and observation. They expect us to run upward, so we go down. Use the sublevel tunnels to flank them, hit them from behind while they're focused on ascending. Dong-hyun's eyes widened. Eat the maintenance tunnels. Exactly. They're not on the main schematics. Your enemies won't know about them. But we'd be abandoning defensive position. To take offensive position, they want a siege. Let's give them a slaughter. Silence. Then Dong-hyun laughed, dark, amazed. You want to counterattack during an invasion? I want to win. This is how. She checked her magazine. But it has to be fast before they reach the 3rd floor. Dong-hyun looked at Tai Yang. Can we do it? If we move now and hit hard, maybe. But boss, you can't. I'm walking now. I can fight. With a cane. I'll manage. He gripped his modified cane, weighted, reinforced, a weapon itself. Naledi's right. They expect the cripple to hide upstairs. Let's show them what happens when they underestimate me. They moved fast. Wad 12 defenders total. Dong-hyun, Naledi, Tai Yang, 9 loyal guards. They descended through the hidden maintenance access behind the kitchen, emerging in the sub-level parking garage. Above them, footsteps, shouting in Chinese and Korean. The attackers were clearing the 2nd floor. They'll hit the stairwell to the 3rd floor in 3 minutes, Taeyang whispered. We flank from the garage elevator. Come up behind them. No, Naledi interrupted. We trap them. What? She grabbed a schematic from Taeyang's tablet, annotated it quickly. Half our people hold here at the garage entrance. The rest take the service elevator to the 2nd floor, making noise, drawing attention. When the attackers turn to engage, the garage team comes up behind. Pincer movement. That splits our force, one guard protested. It concentrates theirs. Naledi looked at Dong-hyun. They'll bunch up in the hallway trying to hit both threats. That's when we use the sprinkler system. The sprinkler system? You have gasoline stored in the sublevel, right? For the backup generators? She was improvising now, connecting dots. We create a leak, flood the 2nd floor hallway, then ignite it remotely. They're boxed in by fire. Dong-hyun stared at her. You want to burn them alive? I want them to choose between burning or retreating. When they retreat, we're waiting. Taeyang looked at Dong-hyun. Boss. Dong-hyun's expression was filled with dark pride. Do it. Naledi leads the garage team. I'll take the service elevator. No, Naledi said immediately. You lead the garage team. You're still recovering. You need the defensive position. I'll draw them out. Absolutely not. You're not bait. I'm not bait. I'm the distraction. She grabbed his face. Listen to me. You need to trust that I'm smarter than they think I am. Let me prove it. Their eyes locked. The battle raged above. Time was running out. If you die, Dong-hyun said quietly, I burn the world. Then I won't die. She kissed him hard. Trust me. He nodded once. Taeyang, you're with me. Naledi gets 4 guards. Move fast. 5 minutes. They split. Naledi took the service elevator with 4 guards. All men who'd trained with her, who'd seen her skill, who trusted her enough to follow a foreign woman into hell. The elevator opened on the 2nd floor. Instantly, gunfire erupted. They returned fire, falling back to a defensive position behind an overturned desk. Contact! Naledi shouted in Korean, one of the phrases Dong-hyun had taught her. 2nd floor east wing. The attackers swarmed, 20 men converging on their position, exactly as planned. Naledi and her guards fell back slowly, deliberately, making it look like retreat, but really leading them deeper into the hallway. Below, Dong Hyun watched on his tablet. She's hurting them. Perfect. Taiyang was already moving. 2 guards flooded the hallway with gasoline from the generator tanks. Rigged hoses running through the ventilation system. It poured across the floor, pooling, the smell overwhelming. The attackers noticed too late. Dong Hyun pressed the detonator. The second floor erupted in flames, screaming, men on fire, staggering, rolling, trying to extinguish themselves. And others retreating down the stairs, right into Dong Hyun's position. He was waiting. The cane in his hands proved its worth, reinforced steel-cracking skulls, the weighted tip breaking bones. His guards flanked him, efficient and deadly. But it was Dong Hyun they watched. The man who'd been paralyzed, walking, fighting, alive in ways they'd never seen. He moved with purpose, not graceful, still using the cane for support, but powerful, every swing precise, every step measured. Above, Naledi and her team picked off attackers trying to escape the flames. She moved like Aaron had taught her. Quick, efficient, no wasted motion. 2 shots, center mass, next target. The attackers broke, started retreating. "Push forward," Naledi commanded. "Don't let them regroup." They advanced, clearing the second floor room by room. Bodies everywhere. Enemy combatants who'd underestimated the cripple and his black maid, who were learning, far too late, that they'd walked into a massacre. But the Zhu clan hadn't sent amateurs. The retreat was tactical, drawing Dong Hyun's people forward into a secondary ambush. When Naledi's team reached the main stairwell, explosives detonated. The floor collapsed. Naledi fell hard, landing in the rubble of what used to be the first-floor ceiling. Pain exploded through her ribs. Her gun skittered away. Above, more attackers, fresh wave. They'd held reserves back. "Naledi!" Dong Hyun's voice through her earpiece frantic. "I'm okay," she gasped. Wasn't sure if that was true. "Second wave. They planned for counterattack. Hold position. I'm coming." "No." She spotted her gun, grabbed it despite the pain. "They want you to split up. Stay coordinated. I can handle this. You're injured. I'm functional. Trust me." She forced herself up. 2 of her guards were alive, dazed but moving. The other 2 weren't. The attackers descended the stairs. 8 men, armed, professional. Naledi did quick math. 3 against 8, injured, no backup for at least 2 minutes. Not great odds. She smiled anyway. "Aaron, if you can hear me," she muttered, "this better have been worth all those morning beatings." The attackers spread out, flanking positions. Smart, careful. Naledi did something they didn't expect. She attacked first. She moved like water. First attacker, knee shot. He went down screaming. Second, headshot while he was processing his partner's fall. Third turned too slow. She closed distance, used the gun as a bludgeon. Crushed his throat. Her guards joined in. 5 versus 5 now. But Naledi was operating on pure instinct, Aaron's training taking over. She anticipated movements, ducked under swings, used opponent's size against them. One man grabbed her from behind. She snapped her head back, broke his nose, threw an elbow, shattered his jaw, twisted out of his grip, fired twice into his center mass. The remaining attackers realized too late the maid wasn't prey. She was a weapon Dong Hyun had sharpened. When the last attacker fell, Naledi stood in the wreckage, breathing hard, covered in blood, none of it hers except the split lip she'd gotten in the fall. "Second floor secure," she reported through her earpiece. 8 hostiles down, 3 casualties on our side. "Naledi!" Dong Hyun's voice was raw with emotion. "I'm coming to you." "No. Where's the third wave?" "What? They sent 32 people. We've killed maybe 20. Where's the rest?" She scanned the room, mind racing. "They're not retreating. They're regrouping." "Where?" Taiyang's voice cut in. "Boss, she's right. We've got movement on the south entrance. They're setting up for another push." "Then we end this." Dong Hyun's voice went cold. "Naledi, meet me in the garage. We're finishing this together." They converged in the garage, 8 defenders left standing, exhausted but functional. Dong Hyun looked at Naledi, took in the blood, the split lip, the way she favored her left side. "You're hurt." "Cracked rib. I'll live." She touched his face. "You're walking without the cane." He looked down, surprised. In the chaos, he'd dropped it, was standing unsupported. "So I am." They shared a moment. Brief, she fierce. Then turned to face what was coming. The remaining attackers would hit hard. Final push, all or nothing. "I have an idea," Naledi said, "but you're not going to like it. Tell me." "The compound's structural weakness is the underground support columns. You showed me once. Said if they failed, the whole west wing would collapse." Dong Hyun's eyes widened. "You want to bring down the building?" Just the West Wing, where they're staging. Trap them in the rubble. She pulled up schematics on Tai Yang's tablet. We rig the columns to blow, evacuate to the East Wing, detonate when they're in position. That's insane. The damage can be rebuilt. We can't. She held his gaze. This ends tonight. Completely. No survivors to report back, no second chances. Tai Yang looked at Dong Hyun. Boss? Dong Hyun studied Naledi. This woman who'd walked into his life as a desperate maid and become his general, his strategist, his equal. You're not the woman I hired, he said softly. No, I'm the woman you made me. Wrong, he kissed her. You're the woman you chose to become. I just gave you the tools. He turned to Tai Yang. Do it. Rig the columns. Everyone evacuates to the East Wing safe room. 5 minutes. They moved fast. The remaining attackers poured into the West Wing, confident. They'd softened the defenders. Now they'd finish them. They didn't notice the structural charges on the support columns. In the East Wing safe room, reinforced concrete, blast-proof, Dong Hyun's people watched on monitors. Confirmed, Taeyang reported. All hostiles in the kill zone. Dong Hyun looked at Naledi. Your plan. Buck your call. She reached for the detonator, paused. This is who we are now. Yes. No going back. Never was. She pressed the button. The West Wing collapsed. Tons of concrete and steel crashing down, burying the Shu clan's assault force completely. The compound shook. Alarms screamed. Dust billowed through gaps in the walls. Then silence. They waited. Checked monitors. Sent drones through the rubble. No survivors. It's done, Taeyang said quietly. They emerged from the safe room into the ruined compound. Dawn was breaking. Bodies everywhere. Their home was a war zone. But they were alive. The Shu clan is finished, Dong Hyun said, surveying the damage. The Kang associates too. Anyone else who thinks I'm weak will think twice. Unless they watched you walking through that battle without your wheelchair, Naledi pointed out. Then they'll know you're healed, vulnerable again. I've never been vulnerable with you beside me. They turned to head back inside, and stopped. Park High-In stood in the ruined gateway, alone, gun in hand. Beautiful strategy, she said, walking forward slowly. Use their own assault as cover for destroying them. Very efficient. Very you, Dong Hyun. Hey, in. His voice was flat. You warned us about the attack. Why? I told you. I want this personal. She raised her gun, aiming at Naledi. I want you to watch her die the way I watched my family die. Then we're even. You pull that trigger, Dong Hyun said quietly. Eat and you never leave this compound. I don't intend to. Hyen smiled, broken and bitter. This was always a suicide mission. I just wanted to hurt you first. Then hurt me, not her. But she's the hurt that matters. She's what you love. Your miracle. Hyen's voice cracked. Do you know what it's like to lose everyone you love? To spend 15 years planning revenge? To finally have it in your hands? Yes, Naledi said quietly. I do. Hyen's gun wavered. What? I lost everyone. My mother. My home. Almost lost myself to a man who beat me until I couldn't remember what safety felt like. Naledi stepped forward, ignoring Dong Hyun's sharp inhale. But I didn't spend 15 years planning revenge. I spent 15 years surviving, building, on choosing to become more than my trauma. You don't understand. I understand that killing me won't bring your family back. It won't ease your pain. It'll just make you a murderer who dies alone in the rubble of a revenge that was never worth it. Stop. Ayen's hands shook. Stop talking. Your family's gone. I'm sorry for that. Truly. But I'm not the one who killed them. Neither is the man standing beside me. That was the Dong Hyun from 15 years ago, half dead with grief, drowning in rage. This Dong Hyun is different. You have a choice. Keep fighting the ghost or accept that revenge won't heal you. It's all I have. No, you have your life. Use it for something better than dying in a parking garage. Hae-in stared at her. The gun slowly lowered. I hate you, she whispered. I hate that you're right. I know. Hae-in looked at Dong Hyun. I should kill you anyway. You could try, but I won't. Not today. She dropped her gun. Consider the debt paid. My family's honor satisfied. I'm leaving Korea. Don't follow me. I won't. She walked away, disappeared into the dawn. Taeyang emerged from cover, stunned. Boss, you're letting her go? Naledi convinced her to let us live. Fair trade. But she's done, broken, no longer a threat. Dong Hyun put his arm around Naledi. And we have bigger things to rebuild. The compound was rebuilt. Stronger. Smarter. With Naledi's security suggestions integrated into every wall. Dong Hyun walked without assistance now. Full recovery. The medical community called it miraculous. He called it love. The underworld called it terrifying. Because the man who'd been written off as crippled was back. And he'd brought a partner who was just as dangerous. Together, they'd transformed his organization, streamlined it, made it more efficient, less violent but somehow more feared. They sat in their study, reviewing reports. "The Zhu remnants want a meeting," Naledi reported, "offering tribute. Accept it, but I'm sending you to collect." She looked up. "Me? You destroyed their assault force. You're the one they fear. Use it." She smiled. 6 months ago, that would have terrified her. Now it felt right. "When?" "Next week. I'll go with you, but you lead. If you've made it this far, drop a comment telling me, do you think Naledi's transformation from maid to leader was earned? Would you have let Park Hae-in go? And what do you think happens next for this power couple? Like this video if this story kept you on the edge of your seat, and subscribe to Love and Tension for more stories that flip the script on who gets to be the hero. The legitimate security firm was real. Jenkins Kim Solutions, Naledi said, reviewing their proposal to a corporate client. "We provide comprehensive threat assessment and crisis management using cutting-edge AI and human intelligence." The client, CEO of a major tech company, listened intently. "Your reputation precedes you. The way you handled the shoe situation was defense, not offense. We believe in smart security, not reactive violence." She gestured to Dong-hyun, who sat to her side in an advisory role. "Mr. Kim provides strategic consultation. I handle implementation." They won the contract. And the next. And the next. Within 2 years, they'd built an empire. This time, legal, profitable, and completely untouchable. The underground business still existed. Dong-hyun hadn't abandoned it entirely, but Naledi had convinced him to minimize it. Focus on legitimate power. "You don't need crime to be powerful," she'd argued. "You have connections, intelligence, resources. Use them legally, and you're invincible." She was right. At night, they returned to their rebuilt penthouse, to the bed where it had all started. "Do you ever regret it?" Dong-hyun asked one evening. "Staying? Fighting? Becoming this?" "Never." She curled into him. "Do you?" "I regret that I can't protect you from everything. That I brought you into danger. You didn't bring me. I chose to stay, chose to fight, chose to become someone who could stand beside you instead of behind you." She kissed him softly. "Best decision I ever made. Even with the violence? The danger? Especially with it, because it taught me I'm stronger than anything that tries to break me." She sat up, looking at him seriously. "Devin taught me I could survive pain. You taught me I could inflict it when necessary. That's power." Dong-hyun pulled her back down. "We've built something extraordinary. We have. Legal empire, legitimate wealth, respect instead of fear. Though fear still has its uses." She laughed. "True. The underground contacts don't hurt." They lay in comfortable silence. 2 years. So much had changed. The paralyzed king who couldn't feel was now a man who walked, ran, felt everything. The desperate maid was now CEO of a multi-million-dollar security firm. "I got a message today," Naledi said quietly. "From Atlanta." Dong-hyun stiffened. "Devin?" "No, from my old landlord. Apparently Devin's living in a halfway house now. Lost everything. Drinks himself to sleep every night talking about the conspiracy that ruined his life." "Good. He never figured out it was me. Never connected his collapse to my disappearance. He just thinks the universe turned against him. Better than he deserved." "Agreed." She paused. "But there's more. My foster mother, the good one, who taught me to cook, she's sick. Cancer. Advanced. Do you want to see her?" "I don't know. It's been so long. She probably doesn't even remember me." "Then let's find out. We'll fly to Atlanta this weekend. You can visit her. Could get closure." Naledi turned to face him. "You'd do that? I'd do anything for you. You know that." She kissed him deeply. "I love you. I love you too. Even though you're terrifying in boardrooms now. Learned from the best." The hospice was clean, quiet, filled with the kind of antiseptic smell Naledi remembered from visiting her mother before she died. Mrs. Richardson looked smaller than Naledi remembered, frail. The cancer had taken so much, but her eyes, sharp, warm, still held recognition. "Naledi Jenkins," she whispered. "My girl, you came back. I came back." Naledi sat beside the bed, taking her hand. "I'm sorry it took so long." "Don't be. I heard about your mama passing, heard you had troubles. I tried to find you, but..." She trailed off. "I left. Needed to escape. That man who used to show up? The angry one? Devin." "Yes." Mrs. Richardson's grip tightened. "I never liked him. Told you that. You did. I should have listened. But you learned eventually. That's what matters." She looked past Naledi to where Dong-hyun stood in the doorway. "And who's this?" "This is Dong-hyun, my partner." "Your husband?" Naledi blinked. They'd never discussed marriage, never needed the label. But hearing it, "Not officially," Dong-hyun said, stepping forward. "But in every way that matters, yes." Mrs. Richardson smiled. "Good. She deserves someone who sees her worth." She looked at Naledi. "You look different. Stronger. Like you finally figured out you were never the small, scared girl you pretended to be. I had help figuring that out. We all need help sometimes. The trick is accepting it. She coughed, wincing. And tell me what you've been doing. I want to hear everything. So Naledi told her, not about the violence or the Mafia connections. Those would stay secret, but about soul, about learning Korean, about building a security company from nothing, about finding purpose, about finding herself. Mrs. Richardson listened, smiled, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. I'm so proud of you, baby. So proud. Thank you for everything you taught me. The cooking, the kindness, the way you made me feel human when the world treated me like I was disposable. You were never disposable, just lost. She squeezed Naledi's hand weakly. Promise me something. Anything. Don't let the hardness you needed to survive make you forget the softness that makes you human. Stay fierce, but stay kind. I promise. They stayed for 3 more hours. When they left, Mrs. Richardson was sleeping peacefully. She died 2 days later. Naledi cried in Dong-hyun's arms that night, grieving the woman who'd shown her what real maternal love looked like, even if only for a few years in foster care. She was proud of you, Dong-hyun whispered. She saw what you became. I'm glad she did. I needed her to know I didn't stay broken. You were never broken. Just bent. There's a difference. 3 months after Atlanta, Dong-hyun surprised her. He took her to the Han River, the same river he'd stared at from his wheelchair years ago, feeling nothing, wanting nothing, being nothing. Now he walked beside her, hand in hers, fully alive. I've been thinking, he said. Dangerous. Very. He stopped, turned to face her. Mrs. Richardson asked if you were my wife. I said not officially. But I want to change that. Naledi's breath caught. Dong-hyun? Wait, let me finish. He took both her hands. You walked into my life when I was dead, not dying, dead, going through motions, existing. You made me want to live again, not just physically, though that miracle still amazes me, but emotionally, spiritually. You made me human again. You did the same for me. Then let's make it official. Marry me. Not because we need a piece of paper to prove what we are, but because I want the world to know Naledi Jenkins is mine, and I'm hers, and anyone who forgets that answers to both of us. She laughed through tears. That's the most romantic threat I've ever heard. Is that a yes? That's a yes, but I have conditions. Of course you do. We do it our way. Small ceremony, no mafia politics, no business connections, just us and the people who matter. Agreed. And I keep my last name professionally. Jenkins Kim Solutions needs both our names. Fair. And you teach me to speak Korean fluently. No more fumbling through business meetings. I'll teach you everything. He pulled her close. Anything else? Just one more thing. What? Love me for the rest of your life, even when I'm difficult, even when I'm fierce, even when I scare you a little, especially when you scare me. He kissed her. Deal. They married 3 months later in a private ceremony at the rebuilt compound. Taeyang stood as best man. Aaron as maid of honor. 15 guests total, no press, no fanfare. Just 2 people who'd saved each other, promising to keep doing it forever. Jenkins Kim Solutions had offices in 12 countries. Annual revenue, $500 million. While clients included Fortune 500 companies, governments, NGOs. Naledi ran operations. Dong-hyun handled strategy. Together, they were unstoppable. The underground connections still existed. Dong-hyun had never fully left that world, but they were minimal now, consultative. He'd become the man people came to for advice, not violence. The king retired from the battlefield, but still rules from the throne, Taeyang observed one day. Dong-hyun smiled. Something like that. At home, life was different than either had imagined. Naledi was pregnant, 6 months, a girl. They'd already picked the name, Min-jun Richardson Kim, honoring both cultures, both histories. Are you scared? Naledi asked one evening, her hand on her belly. Terrified. Why? Because I lost a child once, before you. When my wife died, our son died with her. I'm terrified this is a dream, that I'll wake up paralyzed in that wheelchair again, alone, with nothing. She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. The baby kicked. Feel that? That's real. I'm real. This life we built is real. She held his gaze. You're not losing me, or her. I'm too stubborn to die, remember? He laughed wetly. True. And our daughter? She's going to be fierce, strong, smart, just like her father. Just like her mother, he corrected. Both. She'll be both. Naledi smiled. The Mafia King's daughter and the maid's daughter. Imagine the chaos. I can't wait. Min-jun Richardson Kim entered the world screaming. Loud, furious, demanding attention immediately. She's perfect, Dong-hyun whispered, holding his daughter for the first time, tears streaming down his face. Naledi watched from the hospital bed, exhausted, but radiant. She looks like you. She has your fire. Poor thing, she's doomed. They laughed. The nurse smiled, taking photos they'd treasure forever. Tai Yang visited later, bringing flowers and looking uncomfortable around the tiny human. Congratulations, boss. She's small. All babies are small. I meant compared to the empire you two run. He looked at Naledi. How does it feel? Like I'm holding the most dangerous weapon I've ever touched, she said honestly. Because if anyone threatens her, I won't hesitate, won't negotiate, won't show mercy. Good, Tai Yang said seriously. Because in our world, even the legitimate parts, enemies remember, and they'll come for the next generation if we're not careful. Then we'll teach her to be careful. And deadly when necessary. Naledi looked at Dong Hyun. Just like her parents. Min Jun was everything they'd hoped. Smart, terrifyingly so. By age 7, she spoke 3 languages. By 9, she'd hacked her father's company servers just to prove she could. By 10, she was learning self-defense from Aaron with the same intensity her mother had. She's going to be trouble, Aaron reported after one training session. Good, Naledi said. The world needs more trouble from women. Dong Hyun watched his daughter spar, pride and fear mixing. She moved like Naledi, precise, efficient, utterly fearless. We created a monster, he said fondly. We created a survivor, Naledi corrected. She'll never be weak, never be a victim, never let anyone make her small. Just like her mother, exactly like her mother. That night, Min Jun asked the question they'd been dreading. Mom, Dad, why do people at school say Grandpa used to be in the Mafia? Silence. Naledi and Dong Hyun exchanged glances. They'd prepared for this conversation, knew it was coming, but preparation didn't make it easier. Because I was, Dong Hyun said finally. A long time ago, before you were born, I did things I'm not proud of. Hurt people, broke laws, lived a dangerous life. But you stopped? Mostly. I still have connections, but I don't do the violence anymore. I use my knowledge to help people stay safe instead of making them unsafe. Min Jun processed this. And Mom? Was she in the Mafia too? No, Naledi said. I was running from someone who hurt me. Your father gave me safety. Then I helped him become better than he was. We built something new together. The company? The company. This family. A life where we're strong because we choose to be, not because we have to be. Min Jun nodded slowly. Kids at school say their parents are scared of you. Both of you. Are you scared of us? Dong Hyun asked gently. No, but I understand why others might be. You're intense. Naledi laughed. That's diplomatic. I learned from the best. Min Jun looked at them seriously. Will you teach me? Not the illegal stuff, but the survival stuff. How to read people, how to protect myself, how to be strong like you. We're already teaching you, Dong Hyun said. I mean all of it, the real stuff, not just karate and languages, the strategic thinking, the way Mom reads a room and knows who's dangerous. The way Dad can make people respect him without saying a word. Naledi and Dong Hyun looked at each other. She's 10, Naledi said. I was surviving foster care at 10, Naledi countered to herself. She's ready. All right, Dong Hyun said finally, but with conditions. You stay in school, you keep being a kid, and you never, ever use what we teach you to hurt innocent people, only to protect yourself and others. Deal? Min Jun grinned. Deal. Min Jun Richardson Kim stood in front of her parents' company. No, her company now. At 25, she'd convinced Naledi and Dong Hyun to step back, let the next generation lead. They'd resisted at first, but she'd proven herself. Expanded operations to 30 countries, doubled revenue, built a reputation even more formidable than theirs. You sure about this? Naledi asked, standing beside her daughter on her first official day as CEO. Completely. You two built something incredible. I'm just taking it further. We'll be here if you need us. I know, but I won't need you the way you think. Min Jun smiled. You taught me too well. Dong Hyun watched his daughter walk into the building, confident, powerful, unstoppable, and felt something he'd never expected. Peace. We did good, he said to Naledi. We did very good. They stood together, watching their legacy walk confidently into the future. The paralyzed king who'd been brought back to life by an unexpected maid, the desperate woman who'd found power in the last place she expected, and the daughter they'd raised to be fiercer than both of them combined. The awakening reversal was complete. Not just Dong Hyun's physical revival, but the total transformation of everyone involved, from broken to whole, from victim to victor, from weakness to unstoppable strength. Think we'll ever fully retire? Naledi asked. Doubtful. Our world doesn't do retirement. Good. I'd be bored. Dong Hyun took her hand. 20 years since she'd fallen asleep in his bed by accident. 20 years of building, fighting, loving, surviving. No regrets? He asked. Not a single one. She squeezed his hand. You? Just one. What? That I can't do it all over again. Fall in love with you for the first time, watch you transform from scared to fierce, experience the miracle of feeling again. Who says it has to be just once? She pulled him close. We wake each other up every day. That's the real miracle. He kissed her. Soft, deep, certain. After all these years, she still made him feel alive, and he still made her feel invincible. The perfect reversal, the perfect ending, the perfect beginning. The end. Did this ending satisfy you? Would you want to see Minjun's story next? What was your favorite moment in this journey from maid to Mafia queen? Drop your thoughts below. Like if this story kept you hooked, and subscribe to Love and Tension for more reversals that prove love and power can coexist. Thanks for listening.